Splatoon Raiders is an absolutely incredible game. It takes the foundation of Salmon Run, one of my favorite modes from the previous mainline Splatoon games, mixes in some lessons learned throughout the series' inventive story modes, and seasons it with a progression system that is bold, layered, and rich. It's easily one of my favorite games on the Switch 2 right now, and it is absolutely worth your time and attention. A bit of a disclaimer before we jump in, this video is not going to discuss story spoilers or show any of the endgame areas or anything, but I will be showing some of the mid-game bosses and levels and footage on screen, so if you want to go into this game without seeing any bosses or level spoilers, you can feel free to click off now. But feel free to leave a like or subscribe so you can come back to this video once you've experienced the game. Splatoon Raiders is a new campaign-style spin-off of the main Splatoon series, and I was initially skeptical of this direction. For the longest time, I viewed Splatoon as primarily a competitive multiplayer experience. I enjoyed joining the Splatfests, playing some Turf War online with friends, and playing a lot of Salmon Run. The constant tug of war of Splatoon's multiplayer modes is what I always found most enjoyable in the series, personally. I was always aware of the story mode's existence, but for one reason or another, I never really dove into those modes myself. However, once Raiders was announced with this cryptic trailer that showed that the spin-off was focusing purely on an adventure mode, I knew that I could ignore them no longer. I had to figure out what made these story modes so beloved, and what warranted the creation of an entire spin-off with a campaign focus. This prompted me to play through each campaign for the first time. I actually made a fairly meaty video of my journey, which you can check out in the description or the cards if you're interested. Spoiler alert, I really enjoyed them. I had a lot of fun discovering all of the brilliance found within Splatoon's campaigns, from the strange yet creative Mario Galaxy-esque platformer levels to the flexible and replayable roguelike mechanics found in Side Order. After this, I couldn't wait to see what awaited me in Splatoon Raiders. What direction would they take this in to expand single-player modes appended to an otherwise full multiplayer game into a dense enough experience that stands on its own? Splatoon Raiders, interestingly, opts to expand Salmon Run, the series' addictive PvE mode that pits a team of 4 players against 3 waves of salmonids carrying golden eggs that you need to harvest for your boss for, reasons. It's better not to question the boss's motives. Salmon Run is a great base to build off of. Ripping through these hordes of enemies is satisfying but not mindless, thanks in no small part to the diverse set of bosses that need to be taken out using different aspects of your kit. The mode is at its best when your attention bounces between keeping waves of smaller enemies at bay while also strategically attacking larger bosses in ways that exploit their weaknesses. This loop is simple, satisfying, and easy to scale in difficulty as players improve. So, how does Raiders expand this? Splatoon Raiders is a level-based campaign, structurally kinda similar to the story modes that came before. There are a few different level types within Splatoon Raiders. The first are linear levels, where your goal is to reach the big crystal at the end. Platforming is less emphasized this time around, though there are some areas where it is necessary. Instead, the focus is more so on arriving at a mini crystal along the way, defeating the enemies around it, then mining it for rewards. Rinse and repeat until you reach the end. These levels encourage a little bit of exploration to find the briny scrolls and compasses, but they're ultimately very linear, so the secrets are usually hidden in plain sight or just around corners. These levels have great pacing. Their layouts are usually nothing too special, but they're quick and fun and great little connected battlegrounds. Don't expect anything close to the Octo Expansion's platforming level design though. The compasses that I mentioned earlier lead you to secret challenge levels, usually centered around a gadget or ability serving as a tutorial for that ability. These were a nice change of pace. They're clever and fun little Octo Expansion-like levels that piqued my interest on multiple occasions to go and construct that level's corresponding gadget. There were some clever ideas in here too. The tether whale one and the maze level where you're chased by the steel eels were memorable standouts for me. The other levels in the campaign are almost exclusively combat-oriented. The dens function as small underground battlefields where your goal is to defeat enemies and collect the necessary amount of eggs within the time limit. These can feature either a single floor or a handful of floors with a mini-boss occasionally. These are fun. They're pure tests of your ability to defeat enemies as quickly as possible. Simply surviving isn't enough. I'd compare their level design to the different floors in Side Order, minus the differing objectives. The layouts of the levels themselves aren't all that memorable. Instead, most of these dens are distinguished by the types of enemies that they throw at you, like throwing a ton of one type of boss salmonid at you to, varying results. For the most part, though, the dens were a highlight for me. They made the goblin in my brain very happy. Another level type is what I would call the raid missions. You're dropped into a much larger, more open-ended level with one giant crystal and multiple smaller crystals. In this level, your goal is to collect golden eggs by defeating enemies, just as in the dens, but in the raid levels, you aren't limited by time. Instead, you can elect to build up as many eggs as you'd like for a higher reward. The smaller crystals will regenerate after some time, so you're encouraged to bounce around to all the different stops, defeating as many enemies as you can. At first, I didn't love these levels because I was going for the full reward, and they felt really grindy and not as much fun as the other level categories, though I think I was in a prison of my own making here. Later in the game, as my kit progressed and I felt I didn't necessarily need the full payout, I left these levels at around a 1.4 to 1.6 multiplier, which felt much better pacing-wise. It gave me just enough time to zip around to each crystal at least once and collect each of the briny scrolls and compasses in the level before dipping. When I played like this, I found the raid levels to be much more engaging and enjoyable, though I think these also became better in the late game thanks to this game's stellar progression systems. I think one of the things that Splatoon Raiders is best at, which kept me absolutely glued to my controller throughout the whole experience, is its character customization and progression system. One of the series' cooler systems, especially in multiplayer, is its customization and character abilities tied to the clothes your Inkling wears while in battle, granting you abilities like faster movement speed or quicker respawns. This gives you the ability to express yourself, not just in your Inkling's fashion, but also their playstyle as well. Raiders has its own customization system tailor-made to its gameplay structure that is expertly crafted and paced wonderfully. This game has so many things to upgrade, so many collectibles to manage, but they all coalesce into a well-oiled machine that keeps you glued to the screen, excited to put the loot that you just got to good use after every level. In Splatoon Raiders, you play as the mechanic, who has the ability to create all sorts of gizmos and gadgets to help the team in their quest for loot. There are tons of resources that you'll collect throughout your quest, from spiralite shards to new weapons. Raiders uses these collectibles as a means to allow you to tinker with your kit and create new ways to make your build fit your playstyle, and it does so at a pace that feels perfect. After every single level, I would always excitedly hurry back to my ship to see what new upgrades I could build, which in turn gave me a new ability to test out in the subsequent level. It keeps the game fresh as you play and encourages constant experimentation and tinkering with your setup to find the best tools for the job. For the main weapons, you find these throughout the levels as you defeat salmonids, and each has a different level and star rarity attributed to it. The levels correspond to damage output, and the rarer weapons can also have relic attributes attached to them, which are these little buffs that you can attach to your tank as well to improve your capabilities. For most of the game, you're encouraged to swap weapons often. You can increase weapons levels if you like them, but this is an expensive endeavor and usually does not scale at the same rate as you find weapons throughout stages. At first, I was a bit resistant to this, but I came around to really enjoy it as it feeds into that encouraged experimentation I was talking about a minute ago. Nintendo doesn't want you to slowly piece together and commit to a build like you did in Side Order. Instead, your build is an ever-changing expression of your evolving playstyle, so you're encouraged to adapt, try new things, and push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Both Side Orders and Raiders approaches have value. I think they accomplish vastly different things very successfully. Raiders opts to change up the traditional Splatoon kit a little bit. The series' staple sub-weapons, like bombs, are replaced with an array of wacky gadgets that are linked to the type of tank you're using. There are 3 tanks, speed, power, and tactics, and each of their gadgets corresponds to that particular playstyle. Speed's gadgets are explosive and quick, so they don't deal insane amounts of damage, but they recharge quickly and give you lots of movement options in a pinch. I love the jump boots and tether in this one. Once I started tinkering with these more, I was zipping around stages faster than the salmonids could keep up. The speed kit was fun to use in the main platforming levels too, because they allow you to get secrets in ways that don't feel intentional. Like, you could get this secret by riding the wind up here, all slow-like or whatever, but for those of us who are based and speed tank build, we could just blast on up here like it's nothing. Sometimes the game even rewards you with extra dialogue if you complete levels in different ways too. It wants you to experiment and try new stuff. The power tank, conversely, features heavy hitting gadgets that feel satisfying to use, from slashing through enemies to slamming them into the Earth's core. The power abilities are slower moving but pack nasty punches, so they're great for those den levels where you're ripping through waves of enemies. enemies. Finally, the tactical tank features weapons that you can set up to do damage detached from your involvement, like the pot shot turret or the laser beams. The tactical tank is the most defensive and can provide some clarity in the madness of the waves of salmonids. It was really fun setting up traps for the salmonids using the tether laser in particular. I think my favorite part about the tanks is that there isn't a clear best tank to use, at least to me. They all feel valuable in their own way, and I found myself switching between them often because it was fun and it provided results depending on the challenge in front of me. I found myself gravitating towards speed the most because I just generally enjoy glass cannon characters and shooters, though I did enjoy the power tank because it reminded me of my old Reinhardt days. The tactical tank was fun to mess with too. I usually like offensive builds, again, goblin brain, but the gadgets in this tank are the most diverse and unique, so I want to tinker with these even more. Each gadget can be customized with parts that alter how it plays, improving distance, power, or freezing enemies in place, among many other things. Tinkering with the different parts is so much fun. The system limits you just enough to make you think about how to maximize your slots, but is robust enough to encourage you to keep trying new builds and see what works best for you. I legitimately could not get enough of it, and if you're a tinkerer, this game will absolutely not disappoint. Replacing the bombs with the gadgets did have a couple of weird ripple effects with the enemy designs, particularly the enemies built around the bombs, like the maws and the flyfish. Since you don't have bombs to chuck into their weak points, these bosses feel a little strange to fight now. Like, maws need to hang out above ground for longer so you have the opportunity to actually kill them. It's not the end of the world. Ultimately, this is a small nitpick in the grand scheme of things, and it actually does make flyfish a little less annoying to deal with, but as a salmon run player, it did stick out to me a little bit. The special weapons of Splatoon's past have also been overhauled. Now they're replaced with an ultimate from a member of Deep Cut, whichever you choose to take along on your mission with you. Shiver sends a shark barreling down a straightaway like a bowling ball, Fry rains eels from the heavens, and Big Man can make you invincible and destroys everything he runs into. Each of their abilities can be upgraded after you complete all 3 stages of their bond, which is automatically prompted after using them to complete levels. The bot buddies are fun little additions. Big Man really saved me from a lot of sticky situations late game, and that's why he's the GOAT, baby! The new bosses were also a highlight. The multi-floor dens often feature a super powerful version of the boss salmonids with extra health, but the big main bosses were a real highlight for me. The third one in particular was my favorite. Each phase felt different and hectic. I do sort of wish there were more of these larger, more intense original fights because I felt like they were a major highlight, and I just wanted more of them. I haven't completed everything post-game, though I am partially through it, so maybe there's another boss or two waiting for me in the post-game. But I would have liked to see maybe another original fight or two because I'm greedy. If I had to criticize the game, I do think its style or aesthetics are a little bland compared to the other games in the series. Don't get me wrong, I don't think the game looks bad. It maintains a rock-solid 60 frames per second despite all the nonsense happening on screen, but after seeing the concept art of this game's world originally taking place in an abandoned water park, it's hard not to look at the sort of barren worlds of the final game as a little bit disappointing. In the Ask the Developer interview, Koji Sonoyama mentions that this was because it made the game feel more like you were wrecking the salmonids' homes and taking their cherished treasures by force. Which, like, I get, but man, this abandoned water park setting would have lent itself to so many cool level ideas. It's hard to not daydream about what it could have been. I also think the music here is a little lacking. I think it works thematically, but compared to games like the Octo expansion or especially Side Order, I think Raiders has the most forgettable soundtrack of the Splatoon games so far. The developers mentioned that this was because they wanted to imagine the music as something the salmonids would actually create in universe, which is cute. And I do think they accomplished that goal, but I don't really think it resulted in a very memorable soundtrack in a series full of memorable soundtracks. I do think this attention to detail and commitment to the game's world does show in the writing, though. No spoilers, I won't talk about anything late game or anything like that, but I really like the characterization of Deep Cut in this game. Deep Cut did show up in the main campaign of Splatoon 3, but they served as a collection of endearing, if not slightly flat, cartoony villains in that campaign, until the end where they joined forces with you to to defeat the real villain. In Raiders, though, you get to spend a lot of time with them throughout your journey on the Spiralite Islands and get to know their inner workings as a trio, and also chat with them one-on-one in their bonds, as I mentioned earlier. I will say, don't expect some sort of deep individual story with each member through these bonds, like social links in Persona or drink links in Yakuza. The bonds essentially boil down to each member talking about how much you inspire them to be better, and then bam, ranked up. There's some really cute writing here though, and it's cool to see Deep Cut get more of a spotlight since they were sort of sidelined in Splatoon 3. The main story sees the four of you working together to gather relics to pay off Splatsville's debts, though Deep Cut is mostly in it for the love of the game. As you might come to expect from a Splatoon campaign, the real meat of the story can be found within the Briny Scrolls, which are obtained through exploration of levels or completing the bonds with Deep Cut. There are three types of scrolls, from the typical snapshots of Inkling and also Salmonid culture, to details about Deep Cut and the clans that each member hails from, to the research notes about the Spiralite Islands left behind by a mysterious researcher whose notes help the mechanic develop new gadgets. The world is dense and layered, and if you're a Splatoon fan, I think there's a lot to love about the lore this game dumps. Splatoon Raiders is an excellent game. After completing all of the campaigns from the previous games, I really looked forward to seeing what Nintendo was cooking with this game, and it did not disappoint. It's remarkable just how much fun this campaign can be, both as a single-player experience and as a co-op looter shooter with a group of friends. The progression system provides that continuous sense of surprise and wonder that Nintendo strives to create within its games. This game has layers to peel back, and if you're the sort of person who enjoys experimenting with creating unique builds, then putting those builds to the test in intense battle scenarios, I think this game will be thoroughly enjoyable to you. It's probably my second favorite Switch 2 game as of recording. Kirby Air Riders is hard to dethrone because, on a super subjective level, that game was made to appeal to my sensibilities specifically, but Raiders is just this well-executed, well-designed game that is totally worth your time. Thanks so much for watching. On screen now are my members, the lovely folks who support me and my work and get some perks as a bonus. If you'd like some extra benefits, like getting to see videos like this early and getting your name in the credits here, feel free to join and become a member for as little as $2 a month. Whether you're a member or not, thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you've played Splatoon Raiders, I want to hear from you in the comments. Did you enjoy your time? Did you play solo or with some friends or a little bit of both? Anyways, thanks again for your time. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.